Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and we are back. We are back with our topic of how to deal with the Quran. And alongside my brother Musa, we have a special guest who was here with us before. And he was so good that we asked him to come back to help us to understand this topic of how to deal with the Quran. He was the Muslim chaplain at the American University at Washington, D.C. He is the ex-director of the World Assembly of Muslim Youth, and he is the current director of Bridges Foundation, which is an organization that's dedicated to introducing Islam to non-Muslims and also training Muslims to give dawah or to call non-Muslims to the religion of Islam. And we are here with our brother, Fadil Sulaiman. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and it's good to have you back. We are going to go right into our topic here today, which is how to deal with the Quran, as you well know. I'd just like to come right at you if I can. Our show is called Solutions. Real issues, real solutions. I would like to ask you a question. Based upon what they were saying, the Quran, understanding that it was revealed over 1400 years ago, there was not a car in sight. There were no skyscrapers. There was no television, no radio. The ideas of the people were totally different than the ideas that you find today. Is the implementation of the Quran practical in this day and age?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Actually, this brings us again to the characteristics of the Quran, because one of the characteristics of the Quran is not only that it is divine, but that it is preserved. It's protected by Allah. Why would Allah protect it if it's not needed as it is to the end of time? One of the other things is that it's for all people, not for white people only, and not for black people only, and not for yellow or not for red. It's for all people, all races, all denominations of people. Also, the Quran is the book of all times. Allah Ta'ala said that we have sent you as a mercy to all mankind. Okay, so this really reminds me of a story of a person who went to the desert and he did an agriculture project. He dug wells and he made an irrigation system and he started planting the desert. After a while, he had a problem with his government. They kicked him out of the country. He was exiled. And there, after like 20 years, he met some people from his own country. So he asked them about the country. They said, same thing, people are as they are. And he said, what about my children? Oh, they said, oh, your children, you can't know them now if you see them. They are like beggars. I said, why? Where's my project? I say, oh, the land that you invested in is now back like desert. He said, why? They said, your children know nothing about agriculture. He said, okay, when are you going back? They said, within a week. It's okay, please, I'm going to send you something to them with you. And then he started writing everything in a copybook about agriculture. How to dig the wells, how to do irrigation again, and how to plant, and how to even market. And then he sent them this copybook. After a while, the government changed. He went back home. He went to the land. He found it still a desert. And then he saw some people he didn't know. They told him, don't you know us? You can't recognize us. We are your own sons. He said, you? I said, yes. He said, what happened? Didn't you receive my book? I said, no, we received it. He said, and what did you do with it? They said, oh, we printed millions and millions of copies of it. We are reciting it every day. Some of us, you know what? They memorized it by heart. He said, yeah, but did you implement it? I said, no, we were busy copying millions and millions of it, distributing everywhere. He said, you did not implement it? They said, no. This is actually just an example. For Allah is the highest example. The book of Allah is for us to implement. And the book of Allah is for all ages, so it acknowledges technology, that we don't have a problem with having skyscrapers, we don't have a problem with having cars. This is actually the ornament in this life. Allah told us that everything on earth we have given to you to test you.
As Musa knows, back in America, They would say, well, look, I don't wear sandals, I don't drive a camel. It's something good to recite, but not really something to implement. You know the talk.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's funny because as much as you talk about these things that have developed and changed over time, the Quran emphasizes these things which will never change for us. And you can think about all the ayahs of the Quran that talk about the blessings that Allah has given us in different kinds of fruit and vegetables and meats and different kinds of things, how the rain, you know, comes and brings growth. And these are things that we are still absolutely dependent on. You know, you ask somebody, like I know in America when we grew up, you know, I joked to other Muslims that the closest we ever got to slaughtering an animal was the supermarket, right? So, you know, you're not always connected with these kind of things that go on to provide you with the food. You just go and you buy it, or you know, somebody makes you a sandwich or something. But these fundamental needs are still there, and they're still just the same blessing that they always were.
The other question is it important for the Muslim to learn tajweed when trying to recite the Quran? Is that important for them? Or is it, you know, something that can just be left off?
It's good for people who do not speak Arabic to start learning Arabic and do as much as they can in this. And it's not hard. In the States, I had some halaqas for tajweed, and there I found a brother who was excellent actually in reciting the Quran. And I told him after the halaqa, you are the best Sudanese who recited Quran ever before me. He said, I'm not Sudanese, I'm an African American. I said, come on, he speaks fluent Arabic. And I said, well, maybe he's a Muslim since 20 years or more. And then I found out that he's a Muslim since 6 years. And he learned Arabic, he excelled, and he's perfect in this. It may be difficult, but it's not impossible. It is possible. So it's important for people to learn Arabic first, and then to start learning the tilawa and the tajweed. But here, this brings us to another issue also with sincerity.
Yes.
Actually, I know a person who started to learn tajweed when he was 23 years old.
Incidentally, just for our viewers, tajweed is the science of reciting the Quran.
Yes, exactly. So he started learning when, in old age, and it's not 23 years old. He wasn't 4 or 5 years old when he learned.
Wow,
so,
23 years old.
Yeah, he was 23 years old when he started to learn tajweed, and then he came to a certain limit that he couldn't improve after this. He started going to very famous reciters, asking them, how can I improve? How can I excel? They said, well, try recite in front of us. And some of them said, oh, no way, you can't improve more than that. This is fine but he went to another person that he was advised to go to, and he told him, because I learned in an old age, I can't. He said, this is untrue, that's a myth. Tell me, what do you do? He said, I wake up in the morning, I do this and I do that, and whenever I have free time, I go to learn tajweed. So I learn like 5 or 6 times every week. The guy told him, this is the problem. You cannot give the Quran the extra time that you have. Dedicate time for the Quran, even 1 hour every week. But this is the time of the Quran, dedicated for the Quran. You don't accept invitations at this time. Do it with sincerity. You don't give the Quran your free time. And within 5 or 6 weeks, he excelled. And after that, he started to recite on another sheikh, and he got his ijazah, which means that he got the highest degree that he can get in recitation of the Quran.
The question is that, how do we memorize the Quran? For everything, there's a process. How do you memorize the Quran?
Well, memorizing the Quran, as I told you, needs first a niyyah, an intention, a good intention. Because
an intention to do what?
Everything that we do in this world should be with a good intention. Also, to memorize the Quran, I need to have the right intention that I'm memorizing this because it is the word of Allah, the book of Allah, and I'm doing this because I want to be carrying the best thing ever, but not to show off and not to start showing people that I have a beautiful voice. So sincerity should be the first thing, by having the right intention. Second, I should choose the good times to do that, not when I am exhausted. Early morning after Fajr. Doing this with a certain schedule, like having 1 hour every day to memorize new verse from the Quran, and having another like half an hour or something to get back to what I memorized before and start seeing if I can enhance or I didn't forget them and stuff like that. So it's a criteria. One other thing is that you need to do that with knowledgeable person of tilawa, a sheikh. You need to recite on somebody who can correct you.
But as you know, in many of the places in America, in the West, we don't have that.
Wallahi, there are very good CDs today that are specialized for that, to an extent that you can even record your own voice and then listen to your own recitation and then compare it to the recitation of the sheikh on the CD, so you can correct your own mistakes.
You know, really, some surahs from Juz Amma, that's how I learned. I didn't know what was being said. All I knew is that it was beautiful. I wanted to say it.
Yeah, exactly. It's, I mean, for me, it was first, it was just the process of imitation. You know, before I really even knew about different things about the meds and the different rules of tajweed, which I'm still learning. But, you know, it was hearing it and listening to it, and then suddenly you're trying to dissect it. You know, what is this word? This word? What's this word?
And to know where the words begin and where they end.
Exactly.
A question to you before we go to the audience.
But let me continue on this, elaborate on this, because one of the characteristics of the Quran is that it is an easy book to recite and easy even to memorize. And this is something that we should put in mind. It's easy. Allah has made it easy for us. And the evidence on this is that we have more than 9 million people in the world who can memorize the Quran all by heart.
Not can, but actually have.
They had.
Yes.
They did. They memorized the Quran by heart. Some of them are 6 years old. And there's a lot of videos about that. It's amazing. It's an easy book. It's not difficult.
Okay, now let's move away from that aspect for a second and let us discuss the Quran as a constitution for a state. I'd like to see what your rebuttal to that might be. But we have to go, we have to take a break, and we will come right back, inshallah, with our guests, Father Sulaiman and Musa McGuire. And I am your host, Bilal Abdulkareem. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And we will be right back, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And welcome back to our program, Solutions, where we are discussing the topic of how to deal with the Quran. Solutions, it's a practical solution. This is the book of Allah, but how exactly do we deal with it? And we have our brother, Father Sulaiman, who is the director of Bridges Foundation, and he is helping us to understand this topic. So let us return back to the question that I asked originally before we went to the break, which was, how can we understand that the Quran could be used as a constitution for a state? I mean, for someone to read and recite in his home, this is one thing. To implement something in his life is another thing. But as an actual constitution for a state, how?
Allah Ta'ala said in Surah Al-Hadid, لَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلَنَا بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ وَأَنزَلْنَا مَعَهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْمِيزَانَ لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. That we have sent down our messengers with the clear signs, and we have sent with them the book and the mizan, the balance of the right and the wrong, so that people should deal with justice, so that people should establish justice, which means that the reason why Allah sent the book, the Quran, and the balance of the right and the wrong, the wisdom, is so that people should apply justice and deal justly. So where do you think people should apply justice? The first thing, in a state. The one who doesn't apply this, they are Muslims, okay, but they commit an act of disbelief when it comes to not applying the Quran here. And we're not only talking about because some people like to label the rulers as disbelievers. No, we're talking about everybody, because everyone is responsible. كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. I should implement it at home. I should implement it at work. And the ruler should implement it in our country at the same time. So committing this act is an act of disbelief. But some people, it differs. If somebody is not implementing the Quran because he thinks that the Quran should not be implemented, he's really in big trouble. And some others are saying, well, we are planning to do that, but let's do it gradually. We're afraid that if we do it right the way, we will be finding some people, a lot of people against us. they are also, yani, we can say that they are also in trouble, but not, we can say that they are infidels or they are kuffar. We can't say so. But here, this brings us to the issues of Allah Ta'ala when He said, فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ حَتَّى يُحَكِّمُكَ فِيمَا شَجَرَ بَيْنَهُمْ. That no, by the name of your Lord, Allah is making an oath, or He is swearing by His own name. Okay? They cannot be believers till they make you judge between them in anything or in any disputes.
Yes.
So this is the condition of belief, that I submit to the will of Allah and to the law of Allah.
Okay, we have a few questions here from the audience, so without delay, let's go directly to them. We have a brother here in the first row. Go ahead, please.
In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. My question is, how can we implement the Quran?
Allah Ta'ala said in the Quran that in the Prophet of Allah, you've been given the most beautiful example to follow. And he was a walking Quran. Aisha said that كان خلقه القرآن, that his character was Quran. So you really need to start implementing the characteristics of a person that the Quran wants you to be. Okay, this is number one. Second, you need to follow the example of Prophet Muhammad and the companions of Prophet Muhammad also, who implemented the Quran. As soon as they hear it, they used to implement the Quran. When the alcohol or when the wine was prohibited, at that time there was one of the companions drinking a glass of wine. He drank half of it, and then he heard about the verse that prohibits the wine, and the verse ends by the word فَهَلْ أَنْتُمْ مُنْتَهُونَ, are you going to stop? So he said, yes, Allah, I stopped. I'm done. And he just spilled the rest of the wine. The women of Al-Ansar, the women of the people of Medina, when they heard about the verse that orders them to be wearing the hijab, okay, they didn't say, okay, tomorrow I'll go and buy some scarves. No, they took off their murutuhinna, the cloth that they used to wrap around their bodies, and they cut them into halves, and they started covering themselves and covering the parts of their body that should be covered. They didn't wait. So قالوا سمعنا وأطعنا. The example of the companions is an example to follow, because they said, we heard and we obeyed. Not we heard and then, okay, we are convinced, now we can obey. No, you follow, because the Quran is the manual. If you have a Toyota, then you need the manual of this car, of this Toyota, to know how to use it. Okay, same thing. Allah has given you this body and this mind, and He has given you the manual to use it so as to have the best efficiency from this body and this mind, which is the Quran.
Our next question is right here in the second row. Go ahead, please.
It is not a question, it is a comment. And it is a comment about the issue. What made me to open this book after I embraced Islam, because I was a Christian before I embraced Islam, is the same thing that made this book different from the Bible, that some people are saying that the Quran is just a similar copy of the Bible, is the scientific miracle of Quran. When you read the Quran, you find there scientific miracles that only now in 20th century and 21st century the science discovered. And this made me to come back again and again and to open this book. And this is what made Quran very different from the Bible, which is just a book of stories and just a book of Ezekiel, and chapter 23, the story of two sisters, Oliva and Oliva. This is the reason what makes Quran different from the Bible. This is the reason that made me to leave the Bible and to open and to reopen again and again this book.
Yeah, this is of course an extremely important issue in the West, and something, one of the paths that a lot of people take into learning about the Quran, of course, because in many ways science has become the religion for a lot of people in the West, and the standard that they're going to judge every claim. And so, you know, when this book from 1400 years ago stands up to that claim, a lot of people just, you know, they hear and they submit.
MashaAllah. we have another question from the audience? There's one right here. Go ahead, please.
My question is it beneficial to listen to the Holy Quran even when we don't understand it?
Actually, Prophet Ibrahim, or Abraham, he made a dua to Allah that he would send to the people a person among them who would recite on them the book and teach them the knowledge and the wisdom and purify them. So Allah responded by saying, I have sent among them a person who would be, or a messenger, who would be reciting the book on them, purifying them, and then he mentioned, and teaching them the wisdom. And here Allah made the purification come directly after the recitation, which means that yes, if you kept on listening or reciting the Quran even without understanding, it will help, because it is the cure of the heart. But when we say Quran here, we mean again the original text, which is the Arabic text. Okay, the Quran is only in Arabic. There is nothing so-called English Quran. There is English translations for the Quran. Because when you say translation, we mean that there is a human contribution. When we say there's a human contribution, that we mean that it is subject to error. Okay? So yes, it helps you a lot if you listen to the Quran, even if you don't understand it. But this, it's not enough for you just to keep on listening without understanding. It is your duty to keep on studying and trying to understand.
Well, we're just about out of time. And I want to continue, but I don't think they're going to let me.
Go ahead, continue.
We go ahead and continue, right? Well, inshallah, we're going to get an opportunity to continue again, inshallah ta'ala. Or maybe off camera. So, but they won't be able to be there. At any rate, we want to thank you all for joining us for this topic of solution of how to deal with the Quran. Me, myself, I can bear witness that reciting the Quran and listening to the Quran, even though you don't understand it, will help you to understand it and will open and make your heart a fertile ground for that which is good from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As me, myself, I'm originally from America. I'm from New York. So I think I understand the people in the West pretty well. So inshallah ta'ala, please try your best to surround yourself with the Quran just as we used to surround ourselves with music. The first song that you hear for the day, that song sticks with you all day long. What if you're hearing verses of the Quran? Barakallahu feekum. May Allah bless you all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thanks for joining us.
Do